Fintech What the Heck. I'm your host, Andrew Carpenter. This is the podcast all about fintech and the future of data. Today, if you're paying attention to the Wall Street Journal last week, you would have seen an article about Robinhood. Their stock went public recently, and the article in the Wall Street Journal was talking about how on a particular day of trading, a whole ton of unusual options contracts were being written for the stock. And if you watch the stock after all those options contracts were sold, there was this just enormous jump in the price from it almost doubled over just a day period, from in the low 30s up to almost 70. And a lot of folks who were really good investors, they at bigger firms, they were watching these options contracts come through and keeping track of them. And so they knew something is going on. There's some sort of momentum, some sort of information out there that's causing lots of people to think that the stock price for Robinhood is going to go through the roof. All those people are writing these contracts. And so this type of watching what's going on with options data is something that Intrinio calls unusual options activity. We include it in our real-time options feed. So what is this? Why would you want it? And why is this kind of happening right now? So there's lots of different kinds of unusual options activity. And this options activity can be the same as you see in the stock market. It could be just large trades. It could be lots of trades happening for a company, but it can also be trades that are happening off exchange. So privately negotiated, sometimes called dark pool trades, that can happen in the stock market and in the options market. And there's something a little more sophisticated called a sweep, which is where an options trader will be trying to execute a trade, and they will break it up across exchanges to get the best execution price in different options markets. So there's all these different kinds of unusual options activity, and Intrinio tracks these on our API. So you can get this data in REST format, delayed format, or real-time format. And it's going to alert you when large trades are occurring, when lots of trades are occurring, there's a lot of volume in a particular option contract, or when just something strange like a sweep is occurring. Some of that stuff happens every day. But if you have insight into this type of options volume that's going on, it can almost serve as a predictor for what's going to happen with the stock. And that's what we saw happen with Robinhood. And you can track this yourself if you have real-time options data, but we have some experts here that have built the functionality to track it for you. And this can be really helpful if you're trying to trade a stock. So if you notice lots of activity coming in that tells you that there might be something about to happen to that stock price that you can get ahead of. And if you have that information, you can trade on it. But another thing that's really interesting about unusual options activity is not for an individual trader, like if you want to trade this information yourself, but if you run a platform or a website or a research tool, and you have lots of folks coming to your website, you want to increase engagement with those people. These are the people that are following meme stocks. Robinhood is a great example. That's where they're trading GameStop or other kind of like popular AMC type trades. They're looking for information throughout the day about what's going to happen because they want to trade and take advantage of the momentum in a particular stock. If your website can display that unusual options activity and alert those folks, that gives them a very good reason to come to your website and check that out. And just to stay in the loop, because if you read these articles that are on the Wall Street Journal, the title of this one is Robinhood stock price jumps as options trading begins. If you read the article, you'll notice throughout it, they're quoting these experts. And these are folks that are very sophisticated. They have a lot of inside information and experience. You can kind of democratize that experience and information if you're showing this unusual options activity on your website. So it gives people a reason to pay attention. It gives people a reason to come to your site or your platform and use it. So if you're not familiar with unusual options activity, you can read more about it at intrinio.com. We've got a blog called What is Unusual Options Activity and Why Would You Want It? You might want to check that out. And I think you're going to see a lot more of this. People are just starting to become aware of what unusual options activity is. because the tools and the APIs have become a little more sophisticated in allowing folks to track this kind of activity in the market in real time. It's been a tool, dark pool trading in the securities market for a long time. And the institutional investors have had access to this for options for a while. But I think in the next few years, you're going to notice a lot of people paying attention and a lot more news about options volume happening before a movement in the stock and allowing people to get ahead of it. My Intrinio guest today is Nick Carroll. He's an account executive here at Intrinio, and he's coming to us from Florida. How you doing, Nick?
Doing good, Andy. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for being here. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your background and how you came to be at Intrinio?
Oh man, I have a mutt of a professional background. I started in the retail space, got the first job in college at the bookstore, because who doesn't want discounted books, man? Like those books are too expensive. I need a discount. And then they just didn't get rid of me for like a decade. Weirdest thing. I stuck around, worked my way up, started running bookstores. Got way too familiar with college campuses, and then it gets to that point where you're like too old for the college camp. Like now I'm the 31-year-old that's just still on college campuses, and it's like this isn't weird as much anymore. It's you're starting to have like awkward like interview questions. Like you really can't date the students, right? And you're like, why would I want to date? Have you met 18-year-olds? They're lovely people, but at the same time, it's like, no, there's nothing about that we're interested in here, bud. From there, took a segue into the finance and the card payment space. I had a friend who was looking to get back to Florida, so I had a friend who had a position at a company that handled like chargebacks on payments for folks, and so started getting very like invested in that for a couple of years. Continued from there, and then once again just following where the friends were giving me recommendations for. I had a couple buddies working over here with some crazies that they said at Intrinio, and said they needed some help managing some accounts, which I had been doing at the chargeback company. So here we are.
Wow. So you went from books to finance, probably pretty opposite end of the spectrum. Can you tell everybody like what an account executive even is? And what's your job?
So the account executive, it's the fun part about that title is that I think there's not like a dedicated name or like a dedicated route. It's kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. At a very broad segment, I feel like what the goal is to have this individual or group of individuals or team or however you want to establish it, who's going to be a voice for the customer within the company. It's managing the relationship with the customer. Sure, you want to make sure that customer has a point where they can come to a person and have a relationship and say like, hey, I can go talk to this guy who I know and can trust and will be familiar with my account. But then your responsibility internally very much becomes being their voice and then serving whatever needs the company is going to have as well. So it's finding good solutions for the customer. Hey, we came out with a new widget and it's going to fit really great for your business model. Looks like let's get you signed up for it. It's finding opportunities to fix problems before they become bigger issues. Like let's take the 3-alarm fire that's going to be there in 3 months and put it out right now. Why not?
So like for a company that might not have like a really dedicated account management function, that was Intrinio a few years ago. Like what's the consequence of that? Like what do the customers end up having? What's their experience like without account management? And then when you add that someone like yourself in, like what's the benefit? Like what's the ROI?
Yeah, customer experience, I think, is the thing that suffers when you don't have folks who are paying attention to it. Because every startup, I think, is going to be really good at the first part of the equation. It is going to be really good at like coming up with the product, getting the thing that we're trying to sell. They're going to be really good at getting sales folks who are going to come in and like convince a customer to join in and purchase that product and get them on board. And then once the customer is on board, there's this risk that you feel it's going to be kind of a set it and forget it situation. Which deprives you of having that sort of consumer voice within the company. So what you're missing is those bugs that your customer is going to find. Hey, you're a tech company. Stuff is going to go wrong. It's just the nature of the beast. If you don't have someone who's looking for all those things that we all know, the minute you release something to a customer, they're going to find a way to break it. You don't have someone who can convey all those ways they figured out on how to break it. Now you're just like, you're behind the ball already and not be able to iterate on your product. They're going to drive where I think your innovation comes from. If you're not hearing that feedback from customers on what they're looking for, where are you guys going to know to point the direction? You're kind of just shooting, in the dark when you're looking to innovate. And I think the other side is you're really going to lose that opportunity to build business with folks. If you don't have somebody who's reaching out on a regular basis, you fall to the wayside of the front of someone's mind. And now when it comes time to add in a service, when it comes time for in our space with data, when it comes time where they need more information, well, if I haven't really been talking to anybody about this, I don't even know if these Intrinio guys do it. You're a name in a file in a drawer somewhere, so you're just not at the front of anyone's mind. So I think that those are really like those areas where the ROI you see is from growing your internal business, and it's hard. It's really hard, I think, to try to like find that rationale when you're starting out. It's a big investment. You're bringing in a person you bring in salary, you're bringing in overhead, you're bringing in Lord knows all those other elements to onboarding a person for that role, or you're pulling someone off of other things that are a little bit easier to like rationalize from a metrics perspective. I know what salesman does. Salesman goes out, salesman gets sales, salesman equals dollars. Yes. Having a person to like manage the ticketing system, it's like, well, do these dollars matter as much? Maybe not so much. It's kind of hard to just rationalize that. And I think as I feel we've been seeing recently, where we've been increasing some business here on the Intrinio side, I think it really does wind up paying off in the long run.
Yeah, I think it's easier to sell to your existing customers than it is to find new customers. But if you just try to hit them over the head with, hey, pay us more, without building that relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet a lot of companies try to do that without having someone dedicated to the relationship, and I bet it doesn't work very well.
Yeah, I think that's where you kind of have to rely on the quality of the folks you're hiring to not only, it's like the two-way street, right? The customer needs to have a relationship with that person, but the person needs to have a relationship with the customer base and sort of understand what their needs are. It's very easy to just look at a guy and say like, hey, go sell the thing to people. But I think you're going to get a lot more success from having someone who knows that person's business, who has the ability to tell them like what aspects of it are going to be appealing to them, and really like tailor that experience. And then also be very rational with them about, you know what, hey, I know our marketing team hit you up with this new service. I know it looks shiny and new, and I know that's great. Let's just be bluntly honest with you. I don't know this is the best thing for you right now. And the trust you can build in those scenarios, I've had more success with being honest with folks about what's probably not a great decision for them in the long run than with the guys that you just try to like hammer over the head and say, hey, buy the thing. Here's a new thing, buy it. In the business world, we all understand the profits and the needs of folks. And I think it just becomes a place where the minute you like lose that credibility is the minute you kind of lose everything.
Yep. You be sincere and actually care about their outcomes. And that's what gets them to trust you and come back. Talk to me about how you communicate with these customers. So like I get hit all the time with emails to the point of frustration, I think, and my phone doesn't even really ring anymore. Same problem. Like how do you communicate so that they appreciate what you're doing and the help you can provide, rather than they're like, just leave me alone?
I think being mindful of that from not just like your department, but from like an organizational structure is huge. One of the things, like, getting started here with the Intrinio, when we look at a new email that we're going to send out, it's not just, hey, how often do we want to email these guys? It's what's the marketing team sending out? How often are these departments sending these guys out? What's the likelihood that at Intrinio.com has been added to a spam filter because they are just done with hearing from these idiots? And I think that's a key element to what we look into. The other thing is, I think that expectation setting up front. Everybody wants to be talked to in a different way. I agree with you. I don't have the ringer on the phone. Email is ideal for me, but then again, if you send me like 5 in one day, I'm just tagging out. Those like Black Friday spam messages when they're like, all right, hey, just so you know, we have sales. But by the way, I know I told you 10 minutes ago we had sales. I'm not sure if you're aware of those sales. We still got plenty of those sales. I don't want any part of it. I'm done. Go away. Yeah. And I think it's just having those conversations up front, like, hey man, like we're in this together. Like, how do you want to talk? I think the suggestion I found that works the best is usually like starting off and just establishing a standing call that is easy for either side to cancel. Let's talk once a week. Let's talk once a month. Let's talk once a quarter, whatever is good for you. And if we get there and it's a week out or it's the day of the call and you're like, yeah, I got nothing for you. Great. Let's not, why are we wasting each other's time? Cool. You're happy. I'm happy. Let's all be happy at the same time. Simultaneously, if there is an issue, you know that there's always that standing thing. It's very easy for us to say, oh, wait, I got to talk to those guys about that thing. And then you like realize, now I got to set up a phone call. Now I got to like write out what the entire thing is. That's going to be a pain. And just having that standing appointment where it's like, bring us the list of blames. What is the complaints that we have? Let's bring it to the table. Let's talk it through. I think that just takes a lot of peace off, or a lot of stress off of folks' minds. And then from my communication standpoint, it's just figuring out what that person cares about, because we can we got terabytes of data available to us. I can talk wax poetic about anything somebody wants to talk about. It just becomes, what do you care about?
Yep. You get it, even if they don't have any complaints or you don't have anything to sell them, anybody will talk to you about their business, about what matters to them, about themselves.
Yeah.
Right. And that's how you find out later on, like, oh, they have this new initiative, or here's what's important at their company right now. Here's how I can help.
Folks are more likely to share their stressors. It's fun when you get a human element to it, which I think phone calls bring more than anything else. You're just talking to a person, man. We all woke up this morning and like I woke up on the wrong side of the bed at some point, and like the coffee machine was broken, and that's a problem. And we were just going to talk about that for 4 minutes because you're a relatively happy and nice person to talk to.
Yeah, I agree. You mentioned like coordinating with the marketing department so that you're not all hitting the clients that often. Like, I've noticed that in Intrinio, a big change since we had an account management team. Like, what do you think it's like for the rest of the company when you bring in that account management function? Like, what changes for your developers, for your salespeople, your marketing team? Like, how do you make their lives better internally?
For the sales team, for the marketing team, how do we make their lives better? I think sometimes it can be just as simple as being a lens through which to like focus a lot of different things. A lot of those departments that you talked about are the core building blocks of any good startup, but there's not a lot of like requirements that those be like non-siloed entities. Like the marketing department and the development, the sales team, they can kind of just do their own thing, and the machine will run and it'll work fine. But then when you have that group of people who's looking at things from that sort of customer side and can say like, yeah, I hear you, but like, I just got an email about these things, and like from a development standpoint, it seems like we're working on this feature, which like I could be wrong, nobody is asking for, and the thing that like everybody cares about is the thing that's being pushed to the next sprint. Like maybe there's an opportunity there. I don't know, I'm just a guy. So I think that's a good collaborative aspect, and then it also is sort of a forced collaborative element, because at no point is an accounts manager and account executive necessarily the person who is going to be the button pusher, right? When the customer comes to you and they say like, hey, this data point isn't working the way that I'm expecting it to, or I went to download this and I got this error code, I'm not really sure what that means or how I need to change my side of things. Very rarely are we going to be the person who can definitively say, okay, I'm going to go click this button and refresh this item and that will fix your problem. We're just going to be the person who's conveying it. So it sort of forces a level of collaboration that maybe doesn't exist if you don't have folks dedicated to that.
Yeah, that's huge. You can seem like a middleman, but it's really not. It's like that conversation wouldn't even happen between dev and the customer, or they wouldn't have a way to get there.
Yeah, and then the other element that I think has been successful is like on the communication backside, when you're hiring someone to be your developer. I mean, I feel like it's a positional stereotype, but like interpersonal skills are not what you're hiring them for. I don't need my developer to be Jimmy Fallon. I don't need that. That's not why I'm bringing you in. I need you to be like that digital rock star who can do what we all assume is like staring at. I'm a like millennial, right? It's the green text on a black screen in the dark. You don't know why it's happening. Metal music is playing softly in the background, and then at the end, Facebook exists. We don't really get it. We just know things happen. And so you can offload some of that stress from those teams and be like, it's okay, just give me the turd, let me shine it up. I'll give the bad news back the other way. But we'll say it in a way that we're all having a good time. And it can ease that process a little bit as well.
Yep, I love it. All right, let me take it away from account management for a minute. Tell me your best business tips for anybody. Like, how are you surviving working remotely, using Zoom, Slack, email, all of this? Like, what have you learned that makes it easier just to do your job in general?
I think when it comes to Zoom, right now, it's being like understanding of the Zoom fatigue that I feel like a lot of people are going through at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're hopping onto a call, I depending on who I'm talking to, like if I have a good relationship with them, I'll probably come in, camera on, ready to chat with them. If it's not that, I'll leave the camera off. Like not set an expectation that like, hey, we're not all camera ready right now. Maybe you're just tired of having to like, all right, let me frame my thing correctly and make sure that the background is exactly correct. So I think in the current scope, that's been a big part of it. Being like understanding of the humanity of people.
Oh my gosh,
during
yes.
the current times.
Yeah, I think I'm finally letting go of thinking that we're all just professional robots all the time. Like, you know, when you're in an office setting, like people's dogs aren't there, their kids aren't there, their like dishes or whatever's going on at their home. Like you're 100% focused on work, and you start to forget that like we're human beings and that it's okay and normal. And I think like I have let go of that for other people in the last 6 months. Like the first 6 months, I was like, wow, I'm judgmental, and well, my gosh, I can't believe they're not like perfect all the time. And then after
you believe that man didn't come with a haircut?
I know, right? Like, and so 6 months, 9 months ago, I started being like, yeah, everybody else can just do whatever they want. But it only just recently was I like, you know what? I have all these calls today, and I can't completely control what my background noise is going to be like on every single one of them. And it's okay. Like I'm going to give myself permission to not be perfect. Like that has been a weight off my shoulders. And I think doing that for the people you're talking to is being like, yeah, it's okay. Your son is throwing up. Go deal with it. I don't care. Like it's such a nice feeling.
The last minute reschedule of calls, I think that's one that a lot of folks have got this like negative, notorious factor to it, and it's just like, no, like we just need to empathize and say we're all human. It's a good thing. If someone says no to your sales pitch, hey, I think this is a good idea for you. We really don't. Okay, then hey, if I can understand why you may be coming from that standpoint, that's fine. I get it. We're all in this trying to do the best thing for our customers and for our businesses respectively. Like I'm not gonna hold a grudge or get mad at you or argue with you for 25 minutes because Lord knows that's not getting either one of us in a good place.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I think that's a great tip. Business life, just be empathetic. Now I got one more question for you. It's got 3 parts, and it's related to your Iron Man poster behind you.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. I love your chair.
The Iron Man poster. I mean, we gotta have that. I think there's also a professional wrestling championship belt in frame as well. So
yeah,
you want to talk about that? We got that too.
Okay, so tell me who your favorite superhero is, which might not be the same. So I also want to know if you could be a superhero, which one would you be? And then who is your least favorite? And I can go first because I want to talk about this, and then I will let you go next. So like my favorite superhero is Nightcrawler. I'm pretty much an X-Men fan.
Okay, yeah.
And he's the reason why I want you to have a favorite, but then maybe if you don't want to be your favorite, that's okay. Because I think it would be kind of tough to be Nightcrawler because he's blue and furry, but his teleporting power is so cool. He's my favorite. And then my least favorite is Jubilee. She shoots fireworks out of her hands. It's like ridiculous. She's actually very powerful, but I find her a little annoying. So she's my least favorite. And then I love Jean Grey's power because she's telekinetic and telekinesis. And despite the whole Phoenix thing where she gets turned into this other creature, I think if you could move stuff and read people's thoughts, you'd be just like super powerful. All right, so tell me your favorite, your least favorite, and who you'd want to be.
All right, this is definitely picking amongst children. Favorite superhero. I think I got to go to, like, from the childhood. It was the cool one. Like, it's the very, like, public money is on, and it was Wolverine. Like, who didn't like Wolverine, right? He was the guy who did everything.
Course.
He's your anti-hero. I mean, Hugh Jackman played him and did relatively well with it, so why not?
Yeah.
And then that, like, 90s X-Men cartoon when he was just walking around being awesome all the time.
Yes.
Who doesn't want some baller Wolverine in their life?
Strong choice.
Don't know that that's a power I'd want. Just the ability to heal super good.
I know, right? Yeah.
Because,
what
like,
is that
sure,
gonna do in your
like,
life?
great.
Are you fighting a lot of people?
You're like kind of immortal, but exactly, like, what if I don't need the ability to heal really well to go to the grocery store. Like, I'm not exactly getting out. I feel like it creates its own thing there, right? Like, maybe Logan, you think maybe you wouldn't get into these situations as much as you do if you didn't have that healing ability. Like, maybe don't decide to fight the 45 samurai by yourself. Bad decision. Least favorite superhero. I think I gotta go Cypher from the New Mutants, who could just understand all the languages. That's probably a very ethnocentric view of mine, where it's just like, who needs to understand languages? I grew up speaking the language that most people in around me speak. But yeah, it was just like, who cares, Cypher? Get out of here.
Yeah.
F out of here, Cypher.
If your power can be replaced by Google Translate, it's not really.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, maybe he had the alien language thing and, like, cool.
Okay.
And then he had, like, his robot friend that he would just, like, jump inside of and become, like, Iron Man-esque. But, like, even then, like, I feel like that's a heavy assist on those ones. So I'm kicking you to the side, Cypher. And then what power I want the most? I think you nailed it. I think, like, that telekinesis thing, because it's kind of all of the powers. Like, I can lift things with my mind. I can lift myself with my mind. So now I got the flight thing. Still get to do the flight situation.
Exactly.
Get to just, like, be, stop bullets in midair, be like the super strong human being, because I'm just slowing them down with my all powerful brain. I feel like that's the one that I would want the most.
Yeah, I've thought about it a lot. I don't think you can really beat it. You can make a lot of money, just play poker or whatever. You can fly. It's the best of all worlds, really. So, all right. Well, hey, Nick, you're amazing. Thank you for being here and taking the time to talk to me. I think everybody will get a lot out of learning about definitely the superhero stuff and maybe the account.
No, I think it's mostly the superhero stuff. It's really the best I can provide. If we're talking about, like, actual expertise, it's almost exclusively the superhero information.
Thanks for joining me for this episode of Fintech What the Heck. I'm Andrew Carpenter. Thanks again to our sponsor, Intrinio, a financial data partner for innovators in finance. You can learn more at intrinio.com and join us again next time for more insight into the future of fintech.